The king's speech was flawed.
It'll be like mad King George the Stammerer,
But his words are moving.
who let his people down so badly in their hour of need.
It was really an exceptional film. It did a good job of capturing a couple very real things.
Real things that 26-year-old Darren Van Cleave, a lifelong stutterer, confronts every day.
Hopefully a lot of other people will be educated about stuttering and realize all the misinformation that's out there. Things like, oh, you just need to talk slower, or you need to take a big breath.
He says his life is filled with misunderstandings like those.
There's been so many times when people just thought I was kidding around, and other people think I've had people think I was faking it for attention. And other times I see people's facial reaction, they just totally write me off.
Darren says people often write him off at the first meeting because the hardest word for any stutterer is their own name.
People get a lot of a bad first impression sometimes of me because they don't really know who I actually am.
Who he is a highly educated weather lover with a master's degree in atmospheric science.
That part of it speaks for itself, but when somebody's first meeting you and they're making their first impressions, they're not going to be able to tell that just when you're hung up on your own name.
A co-worker at the National Weather Service in Rapid City who played a role in hiring Darren says he had to get past Darren's stutter during the over-the-phone job interview.
When we set up our interview with Darren, the first thing Darren did was tell us that he did have a stutter problem, so therefore that kind of put us at ease and we knew that he wasn't nervous, and the interview went really well after that point.
Since working with him over the past year, Matt Bunker says Darren has taught him more about the disorder.
And learn that it's not something that you can go take medicine for and fix.
More importantly, Bunker says he learned you shouldn't look over someone based on a speech impediment.
You're really blowing an opportunity just by writing a person off just because you see that they stutter and you're uncomfortable with that. You definitely should give that person a chance.
Darren wishes, like his coworkers, others could look past his flawed speech.
Hopefully people will realize that it's actual physical condition, and at this point in time there's no cure. So the best therapy, and just about the only therapy, is learning to be okay with who you are as a stutterer and sort of regain your self-confidence.
It's a wish he hopes the King's speech will fulfill.
Listen to me!
Listen to you by what right?
Because I have a right to be, and I have a voice!
Yes, you do.
It's not Noah's Ark.
People come by and ask me if I'm building an ark, and they ask me, do you know something we don't know?
Whitewood boat builder Martin Houston started building the Jenny J, named after his wife, in March of 2006.
Trying to build a boat I've always wanted to build. I've got the place, I've got the time. I just had to get a job so I'd have the money.
At first, his friends and coworkers were skeptical.
I was just kind of mildly amused. At first it was like, sure you are.
But when they saw just how serious he was, they changed their tune.
From the time that he started designing and then built his model, it's been 7-8 years, and the, for lack of a better term, the stick-to-itiveness to see the project through and now kind of see the end, that's what's impressive to me.
On a big project like this, the time can add up, but so can the cost. Houston says it will end up costing him around $15,000.
It always takes longer and costs more than you think it will.
And the recession didn't help.
It slows us down sometimes. Sometimes we have to wait to get money to buy materials, buy resin, and to buy paint, and so we just wait till we got the money, then we buy the stuff and move on, keep going.
And keep going is exactly what he did. Next spring, the Jenny J will be seaworthy, something that makes Houston's wife relieved.
We'll finally have some time together, just the two of us, and we'll be able to go out fishing and enjoying the water and the fresh air.
After 5 years, many hours of work, and thousands of dollars, Houston agrees, saying he's ready to retire as a boat builder to become a captain.
I got to tag along with one of the roaming cops teams hired from out of state to get a unique perspective on rally crime. And while it's a surprisingly slow year for these cops, I came just in time to catch what they're calling the most exciting arrest of the week.
This is Steve Rosso's 10th year walking in the police foot patrol at the rally.
You get some camaraderie between other guys from other parts of the state and nation.
He can't get this kind of experience at home as a game warden in Chamberlain, South Dakota.
Yeah, we take some of that stuff back and then we apply it back home.
Sometimes that experience involves something as commonplace as open container crimes.
One we had earlier with people from British Columbia, they had no idea that you couldn't have an open container in the street. So most of it's just ignorance of the law.
Other times, that simple stop, like this man here who was stopped for open containers in his truck, can turn into something much bigger, like a major drug arrest.
It could be methamphetamine or else cocaine, one of the two. We're not sure. It needs to be tested.
Despite a big bust like this one, Rosso says it's been relatively slow this year. Sturgis Police Chief Jim Bush says he owes it to officers like these who keep coming back and keep the Sturgis crime machine at a low roar.
We all come together to make this work and make it work pretty well for the amount of people that are here. There's a lot of people around. So hats off to everybody.
And foot cops like Rosso get constant reminders of how they're doing.
I would say the majority of these people are good people, positive. They're always thanking us for being here and protecting them.
He says it's just one more reason to come back every year and keep it under control.
The Foot Patrol cops say they can arrest as few as 2 or 3 people a day, or as many as 12. And there are several teams constantly patrolling around Sturgis. But there are also stationary teams like the one behind me that watch over the major intersections in town.
Let's fly.
Hot air balloon captain Crystal Stout had no idea about her grandfather.
He passed away at a young age, so we're third-generation balloonists. We didn't even know it.
After she had fallen in love with balloons and been a pilot for more than 20 years, she found out he was at the launch of the Explorer 2 75 years ago, when scientists reached a record height of 72,395 feet, high enough to see the curvature of the Earth.
I'm so excited about being able to do this, and being here where my grandfather was back in 1935 is also pretty exciting.
Stout and her husband Don, along with 5 other teams, are now launching balloons to celebrate the historic flight.
Basically, we're connecting with our roots, and not just our roots, but a lot of roots for science and technology that's going to send that television beam back to everybody else that sees this. And people don't realize the significance of that.
The data collected from the launch of the Explorer 2 gave scientists critical information needed to put man on the moon.
They were able to make heated spacesuits. They were able to make the right alloys to be able to use for our spacecraft.
But more than a chance to celebrate this historic event and their heritage, these people are having fun, using a mode of travel more than 200 years old.
And it all started with balloons.
Yes. Everything should start with a balloon, don't you think?
Helene, I spent a lot of time running on treadmills and running outside preparing for a 10K I did in May, but the requirements for this physical training test are a lot more demanding on your running time, but also they set high standards for sit-ups and push-ups. So I took the same test that these airmen will face every 6 months.
Okay. I failed the new standards.
Failed due to total points.
If you work on the push-ups and sit-ups, then you'll pass those and your run time was fine.
I could only do 15 push-ups when they required 18 and 26 sit-ups when they required 38. 16. According to the Air Force, I would be one of the 25% expected to fail when the standards get tougher in July.
The implications is not having the warfighter available for our country as our country's asking for them.
It's a growing problem, especially among young airmen.
I think the Air Force is more worried about the younger generations, not putting an emphasis on fitness.
That's why they want to make it a priority.
Our leadership is installing this program with tougher standards, doing it more, putting a lifestyle emphasis on fitness to all of our airmen in the Air Force.
I'm not completely out of shape. I spent the last 4 months training for a 10K run, and I think that helped me pass the current standards. But the fact that an average reporter could pass the current test serves as further proof they need to change. The Air Force is shooting for a healthy lifestyle to build for the future.
Our airmen 40 years from now, we're focusing on them now, that in 40 years maybe their health care costs are a little lower. Maybe they will be a little more healthier based on what the Air Force is doing now.
Starting in July, airmen will have to do the test twice a year instead of just once, and if they fail more than once, they could be discharged.
Feeling all right?